That after the pandemic, the touchless biometric really took off, and that's where we thought that this is going to be big.
Physical credentials now have just become such a security risk. Even if they're encrypted, when it's still a physical credential, you may not be able to clone it, but you could take it and you could scan it and you could get inside a building.
So just one incident, it takes one incident or compromise of the access control system, it'll pay for itself.
Sometimes we trade our privacy for convenience, or sometimes we trade our privacy for security.
The trends today is that we are at the crossroads where people want an alternative to physical cards and key fobs.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Coffee Break with Jake. Today I'm joined by Manish Dalal, the founder and president of ZKTeco USA. And Manish, I'm so glad to have you here today. We've had the chance to chat a bit offline, and it's really great to be here with you and learn a little bit more about your story, a little bit more about ZKTeco. So where are you calling in from today?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Jake. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And I am in Alpharetta, Georgia, where our headquarters of ZKTeco USA is. And this is where we have our the headquarters with the infrastructure for pre-sales, post-sales support. We stock our products here and also do some design and engineering work here as well.
I've been impressed with the wide variety of products that ZKTeco sells, everything from a biometric access control to weapons detection, just all kinds of stuff. But if you had to narrow it down, if you had to say in one sentence, what do you do at ZKTeco USA, and who do you guys help?
So ZKTeco is a global company with presence in more than 50 countries, 3 manufacturing facilities, 3,500 employees, and we ship products to 110 countries all over the world. Wow. So in one line, the solutions or the product line, what ZKTeco manufactures is anything to do with security and time management, from door to desktop security. That's our product bandwidth. And then biometrics is obviously our core expertise. And we started 20 years ago with the fingerprint technology. And today we have 2 more biometric modalities, which is the facial recognition and palm recognition, which we have incorporated in our data collection devices used for time management, access control, and other applications as well.
You've been in biometrics and security for a long time. What's changed the most since you started?
My first exposure to biometrics was in 1998 when Sony came out with a fingerprint sensor, a standalone fingerprint sensor, which can be incorporated into a data collection devices. And with my family business background of pioneering computerized time attendance systems, we were the first one in India to make in those days. And we were also the first ones to launch a biometric-based time attendance system in India way back in 1998. And from that day, year onwards, I've never looked back, came to US in 2001 to expand the business and have deployed several biometric-based projects, all over the world, I would say, in different applications, different capacities. What has changed today is that fingerprint biometrics dominated this industry for, I would say, almost 20 years. I'm talking about physical security. Fingerprint biometrics is obviously the oldest form of biometrics used for law enforcement and border protection and all that stuff. But in physical security, it dominated up until, I would say, like 2015, 2016 timeframe. And then the facial recognition took off after the camera resolutions improved when it was introduced in the smartphones, and then when people saw the benefits of being using online for identification, etc., all those stuff. And then pandemic completely changed the perception because nobody wanted to touch anything after the pandemic. And then contactless biometrics was the need of the day, because even they were afraid of, people were leery of touching the cards and the fobs and
Sure.
all that, passing on and touching the door handles and doorknobs, and right, Jake,
I
from our
remember
industry.
I took the kids to, I think it was Disney, and they made us stick our fingers
Yeah.
on the fingerprint reader, and I just thought about how many people had touched it that day, and we were sanitizing our fingers afterwards. So I totally get it that I understand.
Exactly. And then, we had this, touchless biometric access control system developed way before it was introduced in the smartphones. Uh, that after the pandemic, the touchless biometric really took off, and that's where we thought that, yeah, this is going to be big.
There's still some of the biometrics that we do today, as I understand it, there's this palm vein uh, biometrics, which I always think of when I think of biometrics. Oftentimes, I think of fingerprints and I think of face scans, and
Yeah,
in the movies, they're scanning
iris.
your
Yeah.
eyeball. But what is palm vein recognition, and why do organizations choose it over other options?
Yeah, it's very interesting because very few people are aware that a palm vein or palm print or a combination of both can also be used to identify a person in a non-contactless manner. The first impression you would have was when 20 years ago we had those hand geometry readers where they were big machines where you had to put the whole hand, and you put it on a metal plate, and it would read your hand geometry pattern, and then it would identify you. So a lot of people think that this is the same technology what we have today, but it's completely different. So the difference between all the three modalities what you described earlier and palm vein is that it's the vein pattern in your hand, which cannot be seen with the naked eye, is unique to everybody. And then when you have enough optics or IR technology what you have, which can penetrate your skin, it can take the pattern of your vein, create into a template, and then it identifies you.
Wow.
So so the advantage of this technology is, first of all, it's contactless, so you're not touching anything, right? And the second is, it is an intentional biometric behavior. Now, unlike facial recognition, where you have a camera capturing your video, and then you can use that video footage to identify somebody without anybody's consent, well, in this case, you have the consent of the user, because the user has to, flash the arm
Sure.
in order to get identified. So this removes the privacy concern because you have the consent of the user. Second is, even if the device is capturing the picture of my hand, I cannot identify somebody with their picture of their hand. So
Sure.
that's another secure factor. And the third thing is that because the vein pattern is not visible with a naked eye, so I cannot spoof it. I cannot take a picture of it, put it on my phone, and show it somewhere, right? And do it. And with today's the cyber security technology what we have, everything is encrypted, everything is binary, data which cannot be reversed engineered to recreate an image and all that stuff. So it's absolutely safe to use.
What kind of real world places are using that today?
This particular technology is being used in the healthcare industry for last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, because as you can imagine, in healthcare, uh, you know uh, the preference is to use a touchless technology or
Sure.
contactless, right? So it has been used to identify, yeah, the healthcare professionals, when they are logging into their workstations, their medical devices, and so on and so forth, where instead of typing in the password, they can just hover their hand over the sensor and it will log them in or log into their applications. But the biggest push came in about 3 years ago when Amazon launched this Amazon One program. Your palm, you could walk into their just Amazon Go stores or any stadiums or airports where they have deployed the technology, and then you just wave your hand. It identifies you. It is linked to your Amazon account or credit card, and then you just walk out, and it worked fantastic if with performance, and it was quite a success where it is rolled out in so many different places.
As I think about that, it's not just about security there, it's about convenience, right? But as we're talking about some of this technology, I think, people think about, okay, sometimes we trade our privacy for convenience, or sometimes we trade our privacy for security. And I think, we hear about biometrics, and, I know enough about it to, I don't feel creeped out by it, but I certainly think some other folks do get creeped out and maybe uneasy about, biometrics and how they're stored and how they might, that information might be used. What do you say to help those types of folks feel more comfortable?
This is a very big, I would say, misconception or assumption which the world has. I'm not talking about just here in our country, but if you go in Asia, or if you go even in certain parts of Middle East and Africa, the use of biometric technology there and the advantages what they are reaping the benefits out of that is just enormous. We are just slow to adopt here, and because of these reasons. Now, when was do you even remember when the biometric technology was introduced in the smartphones?
No.
Right? But so today, any smartphone people buy, it's already biometrically enabled, right? You are unlocking your
Sure.
phone every day, right? You go around anywhere in the country or any place you go inside the store or anywhere, you are getting recorded, right? And if somebody has to use it and all. So see, biometrics for law enforcement and biometrics for access control or security is totally different, right?
Uh-huh.
It's totally different. Now, if let's say when people use our devices and you get enrolled with your face or your palm, and we have a small biometric template, which is a binary file, ones and zeros encrypted, and even if somebody gets hold of it, they cannot do anything with that. It's not compatible with another device. You cannot give it to law enforcement that they can reverse engineer and extract an image out of it. And as a matter of fact, as you mentioned, it's all about convenience and security. Security is, you know that I cannot use your face to enter the door, but I can pass on my password, my card, my fob, even my smartphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So what's your main goal? I mean, you want to have a touchless, frictionless entry, which is secured, and then you don't have to have the hassle of managing the credentials, right?
Yeah. And so, I think about that in terms of physical credentials now have just become such a security risk, even if they're encrypted, when it's still a physical credential, you may not be able to clone it, but you could take it and you could scan it and you could get inside a building. And I was just recently talking to an integrator that was explaining they had found a badge in a bank parking lot. It was a credential, and it wasn't for that same bank. The credential didn't belong to somebody at that bank, but it was somebody. Apparently, it was the same credential within the system. They lost it, and they were able to literally scan it at the door and get into this bank, which is just wild to me, right? Because we think about,
Absolutely.
again, in the movies, you see like, okay, they've got they're chopping somebody's finger off, right, to go scan it
Yeah.
in. But and by the way, can you do that? Is that really a thing? Can you cut off my hand and scan it in on one of these, or no?
No, because
Yeah.
once I cut off your hand, the blood flow stops and the vein has no blood flow and it will eliminate. So, but
Well, that's
anyway,
good news. So if anybody was thinking about cutting off my hand to get into the building here, don't do it. There's nothing
that's
worth
right.
stealing my hand for, anyways. So what
Correct.
about, a company that might be introducing this kind of technology, and all of a sudden it's new for their employees? And I say it's new, but I think you make a really good point earlier when you talk about everybody having it already on their phone, right? They've
Yeah.
already got biometrics on their phone. But I imagine in some cases, with any kind of change, there can be pushback from, maybe employees with the new technology. What do you think the right way to introduce it? If a big enterprise customers wanted to roll this out to all their offices or facilities, what's the right way to introduce it so they don't get that pushback?
Very good question. And I always give the example, Jake, of you know, how many people have enrolled in TSA pre-check and clear now, right?
Sure.
They have taken your finger, iris, all that biometrics, and now you are seeing the rewards of that, right? You don't have to wait in long lines. You get faster to your gate, and have you heard that any of those database was hacked or anything, or was misused or anything like that? Nothing, right? So the
Right.
same way, same thing. If you replace your traditional card access system with a biometric system, it's very easy in the sense it uses the same power as your card readers, it uses the same wiring as your card readers, and then it's just a one-time enrollment which can be done in a very secured way, either on a computer or on the reader itself, and then that's about it. And then from the back end you can manage everybody's access and all that stuff. So it is not cost prohibitive. It is the change management is very minimal because you are associating their biometrics with the same badge number what they had, so you don't have to redo the entire database and all that stuff. As I said, once the employees start practice it like maybe 1 or 2 times. I mean, it's like walking in front of the door or waving your hand in front of the
Sure.
door. It's going to open. And I'll give you an example. We have one installation in Houston, Texas, where they have not about, but they have 13,000 employees, and they replaced 650 card readers with biometric readers and are using it since last 4 years. And you can
Wow.
imagine the benefit what they are seeing today. It's a huge facility. That's just one of the many examples what I can give you.
So what would you say, like, and that sounds like a really successful, use case and case study there. What would you say the biggest mistake companies make when they roll this out? Is it I would assume that there's probably some scenarios where they have legacy technology, and then they're trying to add this on. What would you say the biggest mistake they might make, maybe moving to biometrics might be?
Yeah, there are I think a few parameters which they need to consider before they implement this. So first is educate their user population, right? That this is safe. It's not invading their privacy. Nobody has access to their data or anything like that, which is going to compromise their identity or can be misused and all that stuff, right? Second is there are enough guidelines in place. Yeah, through SIA we have done a good job of creating certain I would say documentation for taking the consent of the users. I'm on the IPTAP committee of SIA,
Okay.
and and then the third thing is not all biometric modalities works everywhere. So let's say you want to install something outdoors. and there's going to be bright sunlight or it's going to be pitch dark, right?
Sure.
Now, certain facial recognition technology won't work, right? So you have to, make sure that, your lighting conditions are proper and all those kind of things. Second thing is, if you have a user population which is going to, rotate, or there's a big change, every week or every month, well, and if you have an enrollment policy where somebody has to come to the security office, make sure that that office is equipped to enroll people in all three shifts, on the weekends
Sure.
and stuff like that, right? And then the other thing is, cost of installation is the same whether you have a card access system or you have a biometric system. So that's the biggest misconception people have. And the other thing is, you want to make sure that the computer or the cloud platform where you're running this, make sure that it has all the security, compliances, as far as the database security is concerned, multi-factor authentication and all that stuff, so that nobody can, question you that my data was compromised and all those stuff.
Yeah, so like I think about that, example that you gave of that company in Houston, implementing this for 13,000 users. Day one, all those 13,000 users aren't enrolled in the system. So how do you suggest like what's the approach to going from, traditional credentials to biometrics? How do you get 13,000 folks into the system with, whatever the preferred biometric is?
Yeah. So, always the first place to start with, if you are implementing face recognition system, you can always start with a picture. But if
Okay.
you want to implement a based palm vein based solution, we have a small enrollment readers you can get, which you can connect to a computer or a mobile device, and then enroll everybody to that, and then the software will then transfer the templates to the edge devices, and then they can just start using it as if they received their badges or mobile credentials or something like that. It's very simple.
So many times, and again, I'll go back to, what you see in the movies. I feel like when they're going into, a billionaire's house to steal some kind of, whatever it is, some
Yeah.
jewels or whatever, they have to figure out how to get past, these biometric devices. And it's always entertaining to see how they do that. But I think the perception is that this technology is very expensive. And what I've been surprised to learn and see is that it's really not very expensive to use this. And you guys, I feel like you've really helped make them meaningfully more affordable. How did you focus on getting to a low affordable cost without sacrificing quality and reliability?
Yeah, sure. So, Jake, that's a very good question, and I answer this question at least 10 times a day, as you can imagine. But the biggest advantage what we have is that our economies of scale, because we sell products all over the world, and we incorporate biometric technologies in various different solutions, not just access control readers. Our time management is a very big portion of it, and the adoption of biometrics in that part of the industry or that industry is much more than access control. And we also make those USB devices for identity management and single sign-on. So we use the same biometric technology into all of these products, and because of economies of scale and because of our volume purchase, we are able to make it really affordable. And that's our I would say secret. And then with the distributed manufacturing in three countries, and the fourth one, our factory in US is about to be commissioned in next 6 months. We have a very good handle on the supply chain. And that's the reason why we are able to make it so affordable.
So aside from price, what do you think
Yeah.
people should look at when they're shopping for biometric solutions?
I would say look at the total cost of ownership, and also I would say keep in mind that you might be investing same or a little bit more today on biometric technology, but the benefits are tremendous. I'll give an example. You can find a $300 time clock with a fingerprint sensor today, right? And then if you have 25, 30, 50 employees, they clock in and out. And then imagine, if it saves even 5% on their payroll cost on body punching or ghost punching and all that stuff, the return on investment is no brainer, right?
Sure.
Same thing as you mentioned, that somebody found a bank card in the parking lot and they were able to open the door. So just one incident, it takes one incident or compromise of the access control system, and it'll pay for itself.
You mentioned it. You asked me when they rolled out, if I could remember when they rolled out biometrics on the iPhone, and I couldn't answer it because I didn't realize when it had happened. At some point it happened, and I immediately accepted it because it was on
That's it.
my iPhone. But
That's true.
and it's just amazing how things can, kind of change and so suddenly be adopted. If we fast forward 3 years from now, what do you think is going to be normal that maybe wouldn't feel normal today?
Yeah, I mean, we have been always used to see a card reader at the door, right?
Yeah.
And then you flash your card, and then on that same door, if it's an outside door, you will find a second device, which is an intercom or a doorbell. And then, nowadays you want to let the visitors in. And with all these digital, electronic visitor management systems, you issue QR codes. But when the visitor come at the front door, it's locked. They still have to, somebody has to buzz them in, or somebody has to get up from their chair and do all this stuff, right?
Sure.
So what we are seeing a big shift is that the reader at the door is going to become more smarter, and it's going to be multifunctional, right? Do you buy printer today, which is just a printer? It's a printer scanner. I mean, we don't use fax anymore,
Yeah.
but it can
But
do.
it probably still could do it, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's the future. What I'm seeing is that the intelligent devices at the door, which will act as a biometric reader, or it can read any form of credential if you want to, a physical credential.
Sure.
Um, the cameras are so powerful, so you can use them as intercom. The audio video quality is phenomenal now, even for outdoor devices. And then the third thing is, because you have high performance cameras, you can also read, visitor credentials like QR codes, or, I mean, if you can capture their face, you can identify visitors with their face as well on those readers. So those readers can act as a reader controllers, or in secured, installations. You can also do this as you can use them along with your traditional access control systems as well.
That's exciting. And I think, it makes total sense to me, really, when you think about it. Why do we have just I don't want to call it a dumb reader, but I'm going to call it a dumb reader at a
Yeah,
door when we could have, something that could do so much more. Um, it's awesome to see the progression of the technology, but sometimes we see trends that we think it's going to be a thing and it just doesn't become a thing.
yeah.
Are there any trends today that you're somewhat skeptical about?
The trends today is that we are at the crossroads where people want an alternative to physical cards and key fobs, but now they have to make a choice. Do we adopt biometrics or mobile credentials, right? I mean, those are the two options. And in mobile credentials also, there are, again, branches, Bluetooth and NFC and wallet, and all those kind of things, right? And you are also dependent on the smartphone manufacturers as well.
Right.
So with biometrics, I mean, yes, you are dependent on that manufacturer, but at the same time, if you want to change something, it's not that difficult. And I think so that is where I think that the market is going. It's just that it's a fear of unknown, I would say,
Yeah.
more than and the mindset that we are not. You cannot compare the biometrics misuse, what was done by other big tech or other law enforcement purposes or whatever the case may be. But this is a very plain vanilla adoption of technology, which is absolutely safe to use.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, when you explain it like that, I think everybody in the industry has realized that traditional procs, credentials are not secure. And you see all these videos where, they're cloning their credentials, and so the industry's response has been, well, we need more secure physical credentials. We need encrypted physical credentials, proprietary keys,
Right.
or we need mobile credentials. And I feel like just during our conversation here, I've had a little bit of an epiphany. It makes a lot of sense, right? What you're saying, if we would just kind of lean into biometrics, it wouldn't matter as much. I mean, I think about, I had a call on Monday with a manufacturer. We were talking about mobile credentials, and they're a great company and all that.
Yeah.
But what he explained was that when the user has to replace their phone, or when the user does replace their phone, because we know that people replace their phones very frequently now, they have to issue a whole new mobile credential, right?
That's right.
And so when you have 13,000 employees, man, like that's every time one of those folks gets a new phone, you're replacing physical credentials or mobile credentials, or if you have employee turnover, you're replacing physical credentials, or somebody loses it, you're replacing physical credentials. And so, the more you kind of explain the opportunity with biometrics, I'm certainly starting to have the wheels turn here. So if you had, let's say, to a security systems integrator that was considering kind of leaning into biometrics, what would your best advice be to them?
My best advice would be promote this technology or sell on the value, the total cost of ownership. As you just mentioned, right, that if somebody switches their phones and now you have to issue new mobile credentials, they are not calculating, or there is no study which calculates what's the hidden cost of administration, right? I have a study where why biometrics in healthcare for identity management is so popular, because a single password reset costs company anywhere from $80 to $100. Just a reset, a call to tech support, I forgot my password and now need to reset and all that stuff, right? The message to our integrator community would be sell on the value of the technology, sell on the benefits. There are enough benefits now which they can highlight about this technology. And the third thing is it's not cost prohibitive, right? You mentioned about security and secured credentials and all that. The templates are secured, and now with the introduction of OSDP protocol, even their communication from the reader to the panel, if you have to use a panel, is also secured. And if you want to take one step further, there are technologies which will be introduced in near future, where the biometrics can be stored on a decentralized platform, cannot be hacked. Nobody can hack a single database and get hold of the biometric templates if they're worried about, and all those stuff. So there are many benefits of using this technology in today's world.
Awesome. Well, Manish, thank you so much for spending some time with me here today to talk about biometrics. If you're listening to this and you'd like to learn more about how you can add biometric solutions to the access control systems that you're offering today, reach out to one of your SS&Si reps, connect with me on LinkedIn, or reach out, and we'd love to talk to you more. Manish, any closing words or advice that you'd like to give folks before we go?
Oh, thanks, Jake, for having me today. It was wonderful chatting with you. And I mean, if anybody wants to learn more, please, I'm always available on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me. And we are just a phone call or an email away.
Thank you so much, Manish.